Praise the Lord, everyone. This is Brother Harlan Parrott coming to you again today in the name of Jesus Christ, coming to you with a new lesson on God's plan for mankind, and we're looking at lesson number 13, the dispensation of human government. It is the 25th day of November, the year 2007. The dispensation of human government. Genesis 8:15 through 12, verse 1. The present age, Genesis 8:14 through Revelation 19, verse 10. The present or post-diluvian age, Genesis 8:15 through Revelation 19:21. This age is that period of time from the flood to the millennium. There are 4 dispensations in the present age. Number 1, the dispensation of human government from the flood to Abraham, Genesis 8:15 through 11, verse 9. Number 2, the dispensation of promise from Abraham to Moses, Genesis 12:38 through Matthew 3:23. Number 3, the dispensation of law from Moses to Christ, Exodus 12:1 through 37. Number 4, the dispensation of grace, Christ to the millennium, Matthew 4, verse 1 through Revelation 19:21. Number 1, the definition of human government. The dispensation is so called because God instituted human government by law after the flood and after the long age of freedom. God gave to Noah certain laws to govern the race by, and man was held responsible for self-government. Genesis 9, verse 1 through 7. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, and upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat, and surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of every man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you be fruitful and multiply, and bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. The laws were these. Number 1, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. Genesis 9, verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth. Genesis 9, verse 7. And you, be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. Number 2, into thine hand they are delivered, which is talking about the animals here. Genesis 9, verse 2. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Number 3, every moving thing, clean or unclean, that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. This is Genesis 9, verse 3. Genesis 9, verse 4 is number 4, the blood thereof of animals shall ye not eat. Number 5, whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he him. Genesis 9, verse 5 and 6. Number 6, I will establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, for perpetual generations. The bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. Genesis 9, verse 8 through 17. These few laws have been the basis of all laws of God and man in every age since the flood. At this time God instituted capital punishment, and he has never revoked it. It will continue an eternal law and is revealed in these following scriptures. Isaiah 11, verse 4 through 9. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf, and the young lion, and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. Isaiah 65, verse 20 through 25. There shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. For the child shall die 100 years old, but the sinner being 100 years old shall be accursed. And they shall build houses and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. They shall not build and another inhabit, they shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. They shall not labor in vain, nor bring forth for trouble, for they are the seed of the blessed of the Lord, and their offspring with them. And it shall come to pass that before they call I will answer, and while they are yet speaking I will hear. The wolf and the lamb shall feed together, and the lion shall eat straw like the bullock, and dust shall be the serpent's meat. They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, saith the Lord. It will be in force in the millennium. It is plainly reaffirmed in Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through 6. That every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same, for he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain, for he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Paul is the one who reaffirmed this, and he taught that even in this age of grace, law enforcement officers are ordained of God, and that they are his ministers to bear not the sword in vain, but they are supposed to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. It is necessary in human government to punish criminals according to the crimes committed. Without this, human government could no longer endure. Human governments are part of the moral government of God. The highest good of all creation is the chief aim of God in moral government. Civil and family governments are necessary in securing this end. That God has instituted human governments to help his work to continue and to secure this end is not only clear in Genesis 9 and Romans 13, but also in many other passages. Daniel chapter 2, verse 21. And he changeth the times and the seasons, he removeth kings, and setteth up kings, he giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. Daniel 4, verse 17 through 25. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basest of men. This dream I, King Nebuchadnezzar, have seen. Now thou, O Belteshazzar, declare the interpretation thereof, forasmuch as all the wise men of my kingdom are not able to make known unto me the interpretation. But thou art able, for the spirit of the holy gods is in thee. Then Daniel, whose name was Belteshazzar, was astonished for 1 hour, and his thoughts troubled him. The king spake and said, Belteshazzar, let not the dream or the interpretation thereof trouble thee. Belteshazzar answered and said, My lord, the dream be to them that hate thee, and the interpretation thereof to thine enemies. The tree that thou sawest, which grew and was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves were fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all, under which the beasts of the field dwelt, and upon whose branches the fowls of the heaven had their habitation. It is thou, O king, thou art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the end of the earth. And whereas the king saw a watcher and unholy one coming down from heaven, and saying, Hew the tree down and destroy it, yet leave the stump of the roots thereof in the earth, even with a band of iron and brass in the tender grass of the field, and let it be wet with the dew of heaven, and let his portion be with the beasts of the field, till 7 times pass over him. This is the interpretation, O king, and this is the decree of the Most High, which is come upon my lord the king, that they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will. Daniel 5:21. And he was driven from the sons of men, and his heart was made like the beast, and his dwelling was with the wild asses. They fed him with grass like oxen, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven, till he knew that the Most High God ruled in the kingdom of men, and that he appointeth over it whomsoever he will. 1 Peter 2, verse 13 and 14. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well. It is the duty of all men to help establish and support human government for the preservation of society. Every person is under moral obligation to use his influence and power to promote good government for the highest good of men that will conform to the law of God. Administrators of human government, when they rule contrary to the law of God and the best good of all, will be punished in due time by God for mismanagement of their authority. God never sanctions selfish and wicked administration, and if such continues long, it will be overthrown. Men are under obligation to obey such government when as long as the requirements are not inconsistent with the moral law of God, regardless of the personal character or motive of the ruler. Christians are always to obey every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do good. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. This is 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 13 through 17. Christians should not leave human government to the management of the ungodly. To uphold and assist good government is not to neglect the salvation of souls. It is for the salvation of souls that it should be done, because promotion of public and private good is one of the greatest means of saving souls. It is foolish to argue that saved men are under obligation to obey human government, and at the same time argue that they should have nothing to do with the choice of those who govern. Christians in general have the wrong ideas about government. They think that they should not resort to law with the ungodly, and that they should suffer any and all harm that men want to heap up on them. The Bible does not teach this. The Bible does teach that they are not to avenge personally their wrongs, but it also teaches that to avenge such wrongs is the purpose of law and human governments. Romans 13, verse 1 through 6. let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore you must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. 1 Timothy 1, verse 8 through 10. But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly, and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers, and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for men stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. They are not to go to law between themselves, but to settle all differences in the church, and not before unbelievers. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 1 through 20. Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to the law before the unjust, and not before the saints? Do ye not know that the saints shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are ye unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Know ye not that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are the least esteemed in the church. I speak to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise man among you? No, not one that shall be able to judge between his brethren. But brother goeth to law with brother, and that before the unbelievers. Now therefore there is utterly a fault among you, because ye go to law one with another. Why do ye not rather take wrong? Why do ye not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded? Nay, ye do wrong and defraud, and that your brethren. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind, nor thieves, nor covetous, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of God. And such were some of you, but ye are washed, but ye are sanctified, but ye are justified in the name of the Lord Jesus, and by the Spirit of our God. All things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Meats for the belly, and belly for meats, but God shall destroy both it and them. Now the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. And God hath both raised up the Lord, and will also raise us up by his own power. Know ye not that your bodies are the members of Christ? Shall I then take the members of Christ and make them the members of an harlot? God forbid. What? Know ye not that he which is joined to an harlot is one body? For two, saith he, shall be one flesh. But he that is joined unto the Lord is one spirit. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. There is no sin in seeing justice done according to the law. Many Christians also argue that if everybody would walk in love and be holy, all law could be done away with, but this is wrong. As we have seen in Lesson 1, point number 8, and Lesson 7.1, law and government are necessary for holy beings who are filled with love. Love and holiness cannot dispense with the need of moral law, which is the rule of action for moral agents. Law is the rule of duty regulating right and wrong between moral beings, and without law there could be no holy and loving society with righteousness prevailing in all lives. Law will always continue as a rule of right in all eternal societies. As long as law remains, there must be penalties, because law without them would be mere advice. And it will always be the duty and the right of rulers to enforce law and inflict punishment whenever it is needed. Christians often argue that it is sinful to partake in politics, that all such participation is contrary to the Bible because of the fact that government is maintained by force, and that force is inconsistent with the spirit of the gospel, and that government by force is not authorized by the Bible. These are also false theories. As we have seen above, human government was instituted by God himself, and Christians are commanded in the New Testament to pay taxes and otherwise support government. Romans 13, verse 1 through 7. Let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God. The powers that be are ordained of God. Whosoever therefore resisteth the power resisteth the ordinance of God, and they that resist shall receive to themselves damnation. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Without then not be afraid of the power, do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same, for he is the minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. For he is the minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. 1 Peter 2, verse 13 through 17. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for the Lord's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well. For so is the will of God, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. As free, and not using your liberty for a cloak of maliciousness, but as the servants of God, honor all men, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the king. In popular government, politics should be an important part of religion. No man can be religious or good to the full extent of his moral obligations without concerning himself in some measure with the affairs of government. It is true that Christians have something better to do than to follow one party exclusively, or to take part in any evil in any party, or to meddle with politics after a selfish and ungodly manner. But they are obligated to take part in popular government after a godly manner, because they are obligated to seek the best good of the society of which they are a part. They are obligated to help bring about the universal good of all men, and human government is one of the departments of human life that materially, morally, and spiritually affect the highest good of all men in the government, as well as those who live under it. If God did not strictly command them, it would still be the duty of Christians to help establish and support human government for the best good of all concerned. It is one of the first principles of Christianity that whatever is essential to the best public and private good of all moral beings, Christians have the right to pursue, and are morally obligated to bring about, as much as lies within their power, those things that will affect the best good of all. Reason and experience, as well as the Bible, make this obligatory upon all. Since government is established and is necessary for the best good of all, then each citizen is obligated to bring about the best government to secure this end. When Christians fail to do their duty, then let them not complain because government is bad and because the wicked are in control. There are enough church members in America to have the best kind of government in strict conformity to the law of God if they would all do their duty. Concerning government by force, this is necessary as long as we have wicked men who will not consecrate themselves to the best good of themselves and all others. Just as it was the duty to punish crime before the law, as God commanded in Genesis 9, and as God commanded under the law, it is the duty of human governments today to inflict penalties when it is for the best public good. It is the duty of family governments to punish wrongdoing, if it is the duty of God and his moral government to do the same. Therefore, duties to rulers and those rule is clear in all forms of government, and for Christians to take the attitude that Christianity makes them flawless, or that they have no obligation to secure the end to which governments are obligated to bring about, is to be entirely wrong. Human governments, therefore, are not founded upon the arbitrary will of God, but upon the necessities of human beings in securing the highest good of being and of the universe. If in a small family law and penalties are needed, how much more are they needed in communities, states, and nations? Christians, instead of destroying human governments, are obligated to support and uphold them. When government becomes corrupt, it needs reforming, not abandonment. Their attitude should not be one of doing nothing about reforms, if needed, any more than it should be one of doing nothing when the church needs reformation. Christians, therefore, are obligated to support governments when such governments require nothing contrary to the law of God, when they do not require acts that are contrary to moral obligation, and when they do not require things that would violate the right of conscience, and when they meet the needs of the people that are governed. Upon these grounds, those governing and those governed should recognize their relation with any responsibility to each other in carrying on good government. If the right to govern is based upon the best public interest, then the right and duty to use any necessary means to attain this end must be recognized by all. It is absurd to believe that rulers have a right to govern, and yet that they have no right to use the necessary means to carry on government. Making the same error, many Christians object to the right of capital punishment, the right to deal with mobs, to suppress rebellions, and to make war. They think that under all circumstances governments can be carried on without resorting to any means that would take life. Others go so far as to maintain that government can be carried on without force to sustain the authority of the law. But these positions cannot be maintained with any degree of logic, and they are not backed by God and Scripture. It is most absurd to hold that rulers have a right to rule as long as their subjects voluntarily obey, but that when they refuse to obey any longer, government should cease to exist. It is impossible for the right to govern to exist when the right to enforce obedience does not exist. This attitude is the denial of the right to have and to maintain government for the best good of all. It denies the right to use force to execute law or to take life in order to maintain government. This theory is based upon the idea that government should love others too much to use force necessary to secure their best good, or that the whole of society should be loved too much to execute the laws upon the few that consecrate themselves to the destruction of all that is good. Such a theory overlooks the very foundation of moral obligation, which requires that every one consecrate himself to the best public good. It destroys all morality and religion. It is foolish to think that enlightened benevolence should forbid the necessary execution of the law. It impertinently claims that the commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," means that no human life should be taken for any crime. It sets itself against God and His Word under the guise of obedience to God and of being in accord with the Bible. This commandment, as far as the letter is concerned, forbids the killing of animals or plant life, as it does of men. The question is, what kind of killing does it forbid? Certainly not all killing of human beings, for the very next chapter, in chapter 21 of Exodus, commands that human life be taken for certain crimes. 6 times in this one chapter, and scores of times in other chapters, God commanded the death penalty then. Many times God commanded Israel to kill in war all the giant races and enemies of God in the promised land. It is certain, therefore, that the commandment against murder cannot be applied to inflicting the death penalty for crimes or to war. Governments have an undoubted right to do whatever is necessary to bring about the highest public good of men, and therefore nothing could be wrong with the taking of a human life when it becomes necessary to accomplish the end of government. The Bible everywhere recognizes this right, and if it did not, the right would still exist. There can be no right in anyone to keep life when he forfeits it by breaking the law that has the death penalty. There can be no such right. Whenever a person sells himself to destroy the public good, and it becomes necessary to take his life as a necessary means of securing that good, his life is forfeited, and it is the duty of the government to take it. The same principle applies to mobs, insurrections, rebellions, and all wars that endanger the best good of being and of the universe. It must be both the right and the duty of government and all its subjects to use every possible means to suppress rebellion and war, which are merely crime turned loose on a whole-scale basis. That war is necessary under certain circumstances is clear from the fact that moral law permits it, and God has commanded it. If it had been wrong, then God would not have been guilty of commanding it. Rulers are God's ministers to execute wrath upon the ungodly and to preserve moral law and government for the good of all public good. They are under obligation to make war, if this is the only way the public good can be attained. Under any other circumstance, war is a horrible crime. Selfish war is wholesale murder. For anyone to take part in it would be involved in mass murder unless it becomes the will of God and the best and only way to preserve society. It is not the duty of Christians to support wars that are unduly and unjustly waged, and on the other hand, just as sure as individual criminals must be punished, even so there may come instances in which criminal nations must be punished for the good of society as a whole. Our duty is not to judge when this becomes necessary only in respect to ourselves, but in respect to the world as a whole. When organized crime, whether it be a small group or a nation or a number of nations, determines to destroy society, then it is necessary to suppress such crime just as much as it is to control individuals. Nations are bound by the same moral law as are individuals, and they must be punished when they commit crime just as individuals should be. Thus God, in replenishing the race after the flood, instituted human government and capital punishment for crime, and as he never changes, this is still his will for men and human governments. God knows how to rule rebellious free moral agents and how to curb crime, and if human governments would be as strict as God has commanded, there would be infinitely less crime. Number 2, the length of human government, Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 through 32. This dispensation lasted from the flood to the call of Abraham, a period of 427 years, as proved in the following scriptures, Genesis 11, verse 10 through 32. Number 1, Shem. 2 years after the flood, he begat Arphaxad, Genesis 11, verse 10. Number 2, Arphaxad, 35 years, and begat Salah. That's how long he lived. Genesis 11, verse 12. Salah lived 30 years and begat Eber. Genesis 11, 14. Number 4. Eber lived 34 years and begat Peleg. Genesis 11, 16. Number 5. Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu. Genesis 11, 18. Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug. Genesis 11, 20. Number 7. Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor. Genesis 11, 22. Number 8. Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. Genesis 11, 24. Number 9. Terah lived 205 years and died at Haran. Genesis 11, 32. The total of 427 years. Abraham was 75 years old at this time. Shem was still alive and was about 525 years old when Abraham, at 75 years of age, was called to leave Ur of the Chaldees and go into the land of Canaan. He lived as a contemporary of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Melchizedek. Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 through 32. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. And Shem lived after he begat Arphaxad 500 years and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begat Salah. And Arphaxad lived after he begat Salah 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Sarah lived 30 years and begat Eber. And Salah lived after he begat Eber 403 years and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he begat Peleg 430 years and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu. And Peleg lived after he begat Reu 209 years and begat sons and daughters. And Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug. And Reu lived after he begat Serug 207 years and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor. And Serug lived after he begat Nahor 200 years and begat sons and daughters. And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah. And Nahor lived after he begat Terah 119 years and begat sons and daughters. And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in the land of his nativity in Ur of the Chaldees. And Abram and Nahor took them wives. The name of Abram's wife was Sarai, and the name of Nahor's wife Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah, and the father of Iscah. But Sarai was barren, she had no child. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there. And the days of Terah were 205 years, and Terah died in Haran. Genesis 12, verse 4. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Genesis 25, verse 7. And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived, 115 years. Genesis 25, verse 20 through 26. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel the Syrian of Padan Aram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord, and the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red all over like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. Number 3, the favorable beginning. Genesis 8:15 through 9:17. Noah was 601 years old, and ripe in experience and wisdom. All his boys were full grown and were married. They had the warning of the flood behind them, the eternal covenant. Genesis chapter 8, verse 20 through 9:17. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake, for the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more every living thing as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. Chapter 9, verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, and upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea, and to your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat, and surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you, be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. And God spake unto Noah and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you, and with your seed after you, and with every living creature that is with you, of the fowl, of the cattle, and of every beast of the earth with you, from all that go out of the ark to every beast of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you. Neither shall all flesh be cut off any more by the waters of a flood, neither shall there any more be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the token of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations. I do set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a token of a covenant between me and the earth. And it shall come to pass, when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember my covenant which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and the water shall no more become a flood to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, that I may remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, This is the token of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is upon the earth. The knowledge of true worship, Genesis 8:21 and 22. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth, neither will I again smite any more every living thing, as I have done, while the earth remaineth. Seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. The will of God concerning human government and its laws, Genesis 9, verse 1 through 7. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, and upon all that moveth upon the earth, and upon all the fishes of the sea. And to your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require it. At the hand of every beast will I require it. At the hand of man, at the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. And you, be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in the earth, and multiply therein. The promise of eternal preservation of man and animals on the earth. We just read this in Genesis chapter 8, verse 21 through 9:17. The full control of the earth and the responsibility to govern it for God. We saw this in Genesis 9, verse 1 through 7, and full liberty to govern themselves and many other favorable conditions under which to prove true to God. So it had a very favorable beginning. Number 4, the test for man in human government, Genesis 9, verse 1 through 7. The test for man in this age was to obey the laws of human government, to prove true to God in executing these laws, to be faithful in his responsibility in governing the race for the highest good of all, and to have faith in God and consecrate his life to the whole will of God according to light received. Number 5, the purpose of God in human government, Genesis 9, verse 1 through 7. The purpose of God in this age was to give man another chance to prove true to his responsibility according to the known will of God. God had tested man while he was in a state of innocence to find out whether he would prove worthy of higher glory, and he had failed. He had tested man in the long age of freedom to see just how he would obey the dictates of his own conscience and to do the right or the wrong, and to know whether he would refuse the evil and choose the good, and he had failed. Now God's purpose was to give man some definite laws that would govern his acts concerning good and evil. Man had failed to choose the good without the law, so now he was to be compelled by law to do good and to refuse the evil. God purposed that man should have self-government, so he gave him all necessary laws to govern himself. Since he planned for man to know him in person and to be obedient to his will, he gave him the truth concerning the means of reconciliation to God. He had caused Noah to preserve 7 clean animals for sacrifice so that men could manifest their faith in the blood of the coming Redeemer and be reconciled to God. God planned that man should reproduce pure Adamite stock so that the seed of the woman could come into the world to bring about the full redemption of the earth and all things therein according to the eternal purpose. Number 6. The means of God in accomplishing this purpose. Genesis chapter 9, verse 1 through 6. The laws of human government were proposed, and government was established so that man could rule himself in righteousness and justice forever. The true worship of God began, and the full revelation of God's will for this period was made known in order that man could become fully reconciled to God and be eternally redeemed. All the giant races had been destroyed in the flood, and only pure stock of Adamites were left. Only 8 souls were saved through the water, so that the human stock could continue pure until the seed of the woman should come to complete the work of ridding the earth of all rebellion and to fully restore man's dominion. Everything necessary to accomplish the will of God and the highest good of man was in man's control so that he could prove true to God in this period of probation. Number 7. The failure of man in the human government. Number 1, the failure of Noah. Genesis 9, verse 20 through 24. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. Noah, a preacher of righteousness, according to 2 Peter 2, verse 5, who before the flood had condemned drunkenness, became drunk himself, and was shamefully uncovered within his tent. This perhaps was not a deliberate act on his part, but it happened. Whether a sin is deliberate or not, it is still sin. Noah was old enough and had seen drunkenness enough before the flood to have no excuse for getting in this condition. Regardless of all his good living before the flood and after this drunken incident, the fact remains that he failed God and man on this occasion. Number 2, the failure of Ham. Genesis 9, 22 through 27. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his 2 brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment, and laid it upon both their shoulders, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Ham sinned in revealing this shamefulness of his father. He showed lack of honor to parents and broke the law of parental authority, and for this he was cursed to be a servant of servants unto his brethren. Number 3, the failure of mankind in general. We see this in Genesis 9, verse 1 through 6. And God blessed Noah and his sons, and said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the air, and upon all that moveth upon the earth, upon all the fishes of the sea. Into your hand are they delivered. Every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. But flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat. And surely your blood of your lives will I require. At the hand of every beast will I require it, and at the hand of man. At the hand of every man's brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. Genesis 11, verse 1 through 9. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach into heaven. And let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. In this first passage we have revealed the definite laws of God for man in this period. In the last passage we have the deliberate rebellion of man against God and his laws. Man disobeyed God's command to spread abroad on the earth, to worship him in the right way, and to live godly and uprightly in the fear of God. Pride, self-boastfulness, and hero worship became prevalent in this age. Nimrod was the most conspicuous example of the failure of all men. Genesis 10, verse 8 and 9. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. 1 Chronicles 1:10. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be mighty upon the earth. Josephus said, Nimrod persuaded mankind not to ascribe their happiness to God, but to think that his own excellency was the source of it. And he soon changed things into tyranny, thinking there was no other way to wean men from God and fear of him than by making them rely upon his own power. He was the founder of a kingdom in Shinar with 4 great cities, Babel, Erech, Akkad, and Calneh. Genesis 10, verse 8 through 10. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. In those days wild beasts were so numerous that they became a menace to life and property. Exodus 23, verse 29, I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. Nimrod became leader of men by hunting down and killing these beasts. He taught men to build walls around cities and dwellings to protect themselves at night from wild beasts. He became the great leader and benefactor of men. This gave him the opportunity to lead men away from God. He inspired men to build a city and a tower to reach heaven and to make for them a great name. He taught them to centralize instead of spreading abroad in the earth as God had commanded. He defied God to send another flood and taught men that they should take vengeance upon God for sending a flood upon their forefathers. Nimrod and his queen Semiramis started the Babylonian cult, a new religion that claimed the highest wisdom and ability to reveal the most divine secrets. The purpose of this religion was to rule the world and all men on earth and keep them in blind and willful obedience to the supreme pontiff, the head of this religion. Once admitted as members of this religion, men were no longer Babylonians, Assyrians, or Egyptians, but were members of a mystical brotherhood over whom was placed a high priest or pontiff whose word was final in all the affairs in the lives of the members of the brotherhood. The objects of worship were the Supreme Father, the Queen of Heaven, and her Son. The last two were really the only objects of worship, as the Supreme Father was said not to interfere with mortal affairs. Semiramis was a paragon of unbridled lust and licentiousness, and was worshipped as Rhea, the mother of the gods. Prostitution was compulsory in this religion. Semiramis made Babylon the seat of idolatry and sin. The so-called Christian festivals such as Christmas, Lady Day, Easter, and Lent, and many other modern rituals and practices such as the sign of the cross, the rosary, the order of monks and nuns, rituals, and certain churches all came from this Babylonian religion and were observed centuries before Christ. For proof of this, see the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Book of Nimrod, number 3, page 239, Chronicon Pascal, volume 1, page 65, Hesed ad Theogna, volume 36, page 453, Herodotus, book 1, caption 199, page 92, and The Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. In the days of Nimrod, this cult secured a great hold on the whole race before the confusion of tongues and before men were scattered abroad on the earth. This explains how the religions of all heathen lands have traditions and practices somewhat alike. Changes in these religions have come through the ages after the Tower of Babel and have been made to suit the various peoples after they were scattered. This religion was Satan's attempt to counterfeit the true worship of God and to satisfy the religious nature of men. This effort to rule the world through Nimrod was the first effort of Satan to raise up a universal ruler of men through whom he could have absolute control of the whole race. This failed because God raised up Israel to defeat this plan. There have been many other attempts since to control the race through one absolute ruler, but all have failed. Satan will make one last effort to control the world, and that will be through Antichrist of the future, who will attempt to become a worldwide dictator. He will fail in this, however, because Christ will come from heaven to defeat him even before he takes all of Jerusalem, much less before he takes all the nations of the world. We're going to see this in lesson 39 through lesson 48. There is a Babylonian description of the Tower of Babel that was discovered in 1876. According to this description, there was a grand court about 900 feet by 1,156 feet and a smaller one 450 feet by 1,056 feet. Around the court were 6 gates admitting to the temples. After these came a platform with walls around it, with 4 gates on each side. Within this enclosure stood a large building about 200 feet square. Around the base of the tower there were many small shrines or chapels dedicated to various gods. On the east there were 16 shrines, on the north were 2 temples, and on the south 1 temple. On the west, the principal buildings. There was a double house with a court between 2 wings, 858 feet wide. The 2 wings were 34 by 166 feet and 108 by 166 feet. In these western chambers, there was the couch of the main god, about 7 by 15 feet, and a golden throne and other valuable objects. In the center of these groups of buildings stood the tower itself in stages that decreased from the lowest upward, but each was square. The first foundation stage was 300 foot square and 110 feet high. The second stage was 260 feet square by 60 feet high. The third stage was 200 feet square by 20 feet high. The fourth stage was 170 feet square by 20 feet high. The fifth was 140 feet square by 20 feet high. The sixth was 110 feet square by 20 feet high. The seventh stage was 80 feet long, 60 foot wide, and 50 feet high. On it was made a sanctuary for the god Bel-Merodach. The total height of the tower was 300 feet, the same as the breadth of its base. The tower was evidently completed, for the scripture does not mention any work stoppage on it as it does the work of the city. Genesis 11, verse 4. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach into heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Genesis 11, verse 8. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. The phrase reach unto heaven literally means a high tower. It would be impossible to build any tower on earth that could literally reach the planet heaven, which is millions and billions of miles away. The sun itself is 93 million miles away, and the planet heaven is way above that. The tower and the city were Nimrod's project, and it was stopped because of the confusion of tongues. One ancient Babylonian tablet reads, The building of this illustrious tower offended the gods. In a night they threw down what they had built. They scattered them abroad and made strange their speech. Their progress was impeded. They wept hot tears for Babylon. The second eruption of the sons of God. As we have seen in Lesson 11.7, subheading number 6, there were two eruptions of fallen angels among men who married the daughters of men and produced two races of giants upon the earth, one before the flood, the other after the flood. This is what is plainly stated in Genesis 6, verse 4. And also after that, that is, after the flood, the sons of God married the daughters of men, and they bare children to them who were giants. The second eruption took place in this dispensation, for when Abraham entered the land at the beginning of the next age, it is said that the Canaanite was then already in the land. Genesis 12, verse 6, 13, verse 7. Genesis 12, verse 6. And Abram passed through the land into the place of Sichem unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. Genesis 13, verse 7. And there was a strife between the herdmen of Abram's cattle and the herdmen of Lot's cattle, and the Canaanite and the Perizzite dwelled in the land. The Canaanites were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men after the flood, as seen in Lesson 11. This second eruption took place soon after the flood, as seems clear from the record of Satan's quick work to always defeat God if possible. The giant couch that was made in the temple that Nimrod made suggests that giants were already in the earth at the time of Nimrod, which was about 100 years after the flood, or in the second generation, according to Genesis 10, verse 6 through 10. And the sons of Ham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan, and the sons of Cush, Seba, and Havilah, and Sabta, and Raamah, and Sabteka, the sons of Raamah, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. The second generation in Shem's line was Salah, who was born 37 years after the flood. If Nimrod was born about this time, he became a great one at least 100 years after the flood. This explains how the whole race was so deep in sin by the time of Abraham, 427 years after the flood. This period, as well as the age of conscience, is referred to in Romans 1, verse 17 through 32. Romans 1, verse 17 through 32. For therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, as it is written, the just shall live by faith. For the wrath of God is revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, who hold the truth in unrighteousness, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. because that when they knew God they glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like unto corruptible man, and to birds, and four-footed beasts, and creeping things. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind, to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, debate, deceit, malignity, whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, without understanding, covenant breakers, without natural affection, implacable, unmerciful, who, knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. God had promised not to send another flood, so Satan attempted a second time to corrupt pure Adamite stock, so that the seed of the woman, Christ, could not come into the world to destroy Satan's hold on the race. Since God could not kill the giants by a flood, he had to do this by other means. God's plan was to raise up a strong nation through Abraham to kill the second race of giants, as the flood had destroyed the first one. Thus the race as a whole became sinful and idolatrous, setting the stage for the next part of God's program, as will be studied in the next two lessons. Number 8, the judgment of God upon man in human government. In Genesis 11, 1-9, we learn that God sent confusion of tongues upon men and scattered them abroad on the face of the earth. This was the first judgment upon men in this age for failure to carry out the divine will and purpose. God, by doing this, broke up the united effort of men in their rebellion against him, and fulfilled his original purpose of causing men to spread abroad in the earth. The second judgment in this period was in the days of Peleg, who died 340 years after the flood. This judgment was the division of the earth into islands and continents, as already explained in Supplement 1, question 10, which see. Genesis 11, verse 1-9. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city, and a tower whose top may reach into heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they all have one language, and this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. This dividing of the earth into continents took place after the confusion of tongues and the scattering of men abroad upon the face of the earth. Genesis 11:9. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Before this, the whole race of men were of one language and were centralized in one place on the earth. Genesis 11, verse 1. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. After they were scattered abroad on the earth, the continents were divided. This explains how different branches of the race are found on the various continents and islands of the vast oceans. One can take a map of the world and take the Atlantic Ocean out and the eastern part of the two Americas and the western part of Europe and Africa will fit perfectly together. Just when during the life of Peleg the earth was divided is not known, and this does not matter. The fact is, it was done in his days, and this explains how the Indians got over to the Americas and how other men got on various parts of the divided earth. God, seeing that he could not deal with men as a whole, gave them up and turned to Abraham and his seed and dealt almost exclusively with them during the next 2 ages. This abandonment of mankind in general to help him further his plan was the worst judgment that could have come to the human race. This is the way in which this age ended. This is how the stage was set for the next phase of God's dealings with the human race through the chosen family. Number 9, God's provision of redemption.